We're going to find the distance between two fractions on a number line. One of the very first things we need to look at are the whole numbers for the endpoints. We only count the spaces that come between the whole numbers 0 and 1. So on this number line, those are the only two whole numbers that I have, 0 and 1. So I'm going to count all of the spaces on this number line that fall between those two whole numbers. I like to highlight those spaces as I count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I know that's going to be my denominator for my fraction. And since I'm finding the distance between two fractions, my answer is going to be written in the form of a fraction. So they want me to find the distance between point A and D. I like to plot those points to help me know exactly how many times I need to hop on my number line. So I'm going to start at point A, and I'm going to draw hops until I get to point D. I'm going to count as I do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I want you to notice how I didn't start counting until I made the hop. If I'm still at this point, I can't start here and say 1 because I haven't moved yet. It's not until I go to the next tick mark that I count that as 1. So point A is 6/8 from point D. Look at this example. Find the distance between point L and M. Again, I only need to count the spaces that come between the whole numbers 0 and 1. And that's my endpoints for this number line again. So I'm going to count all of these tick marks, or all these spaces, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 is my denominator. And now I'm going to plot those points that they want me to find the distance between L and M. I'm going to hop and count as I jump from one tick mark to the next until I land on M. 1. So in this case, I didn't make many hops. I just moved one space. So my answer would be 1/6. In this example, again, I'm going to look for those numbers 0 and 1 and only count the spaces that fall between those numbers. Well, those are my endpoints, so I'm going to count every single space in between the tick marks on this example. 1, 2. So my denominator is 2. That denominator always comes from the number of spaces that you have in between 0 and 1. So I'm going to plot my points between U and V. I'm going to draw my hops and count until I get to that tick mark where V is located. 1. Notice how there's not any tick marks in between. You never want to skip any tick marks. You always jump from one to the next. So there's only one hop on this example. So my answer would be the letter V is 1/2 from the letter U. On this example, I noticed that I don't just have the whole numbers 0 and 1. And this is why it's super important that students know to only count in between those two numbers, because this keeps going past the whole number 1. But I only care about this little bitty section up at the front between 0 and 1. I'm only going to count those spaces. So you can count with me. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 is going to be my denominator, and I'm trying to find the distance between their tour bus and the Jonas Brothers. So even though the dots are coming after the whole number 1, I'm still only counting this space right here. I only care about the number of spaces in between 0 and 1. That's what's determining my denominator. And it's going to be true for the whole number line. I'm going to have 4 as my denominator for the entire number line. In between the whole numbers 2 and 3, I have 4 spaces still. But that's how you determine that bottom number, is counting the spaces in between the whole numbers. And so now I can figure out my numerator by counting the number of times I need to hop from the first dot to the second. So I'm going to draw those hops and count as I do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is an improper fraction or a fraction greater than 1 because I moved more than one whole space from the first dot. I moved 6/4 away. Let's look at another example similar to this. And I have a number line that is going past the whole number 1, but I only want to count the spaces that fall between 0 and 1. I like to circle those numbers to help me focus on just that section. So 1, 2, 3. 3 is my denominator. And now I'm going to draw my hops from the first dot to this second dot. 1, 2, 3. So both my top number and my bottom number are 3. The Cookie Monster is 3/3 away from the pile of cookies. So this fraction can also be written as 1 whole. Anytime you have the same number on the top and bottom, you have moved 1 whole space. And notice again how I did not skip any tick marks. So we have just practiced finding the distance between fractions on a number line.